Well, now, hey there, Diane. Things are getting exciting here in the news, and you are tuning in to a backstage episode of Right Angle, where we go over the topics we'd like to discuss in this week's episode of Right Angle, both for the members exclusively and also for the general unwashed masses. This week, and why can't those masses take a little time to take a bath? We don't understand. So, Bill, I believe that you have reserved the privilege unto yourself to host the members-only episode this week. How would you like to play that?
I have indeed. I saw two stories on our venerable Instapundit. Obviously, Glenn Reynolds and our friend Steve Green keeping that peppery and alive.
Humming.
The first one had to do with a protest from Google employees about the inclusion of a conservative on the board of kind of oversight of artificial intelligence.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, they claimed he was transphobic, and something like 900 Google employees got together and decided to kick the only conservative off of the artificial intelligence sort of oversight committee.
Let me just ask, if somebody's transphobic, basically meaning they have a fear of transgendered people, shouldn't we protect them because they're afraid? Shouldn't we guard them in some way?
My feeling would be to arm them heavily and reduce their fear levels, but who am I to argue with logic?
It's total Yoda philosophy. It's fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to throwing gays off of buildings.
Yeah.
Or boards.
Well, here's what I find interesting. It's a subject I've touched on a bunch, but I think it just needs to be constantly hammered into people. That story led to something that I think is much more illuminating, and that is then they were talking about previous instances of the Google employees rising up en masse. It turned out that a number of them had an enormous protest about the fact that some of the artificial intelligence developed by Google might in fact have been used by weapons systems.
Ooh, that goes under Skynet smiles, doesn't it?
Or some of the artificial intelligence developed for weapons systems might have been actually used by Google.
Well, let me just stress that I'm deeply concerned about artificial intelligence, and the reason I'm most concerned about artificial intelligence is that the people who are building artificial intelligence are shocked that artificial intelligence might be able to be used in military applications. That's pretty much the end of the argument.
So we've got idiots making artificial intelligence, is what you're saying.
They're obviously some of the most brilliant people in the history of the world. But they're idiots.
But they're also idiots, yeah.
This is the relationship of them to artificial intelligence is like actual fruit to plastic fruit.
You know, I just like to say sometimes that intellectualism is intelligence that's been left in the back of the fridge for 6 months, and it is, and that's what we're dealing with here. In other words, it is a measure of the naivete of the people who are constructing these systems that they would be shocked, I say, to find that one of their military contractors actually is thinking about using artificial intelligence for military applications. If you're going to be that stupid, then I think your work needs to be placed in the hands of adults. And apparently, anybody who disagrees with the children that are making the machines that'll be smarter than all of us have to be thrown off of the committee because they might introduce a different opinion into the artificial intelligence debate.
Well, you wouldn't want to give either side in a war an unfair advantage, Bill.
Yes, our side gets all the unfair advantages, all of them. It's only fair. It's
also a little ironic that artificial intelligence gets closer and closer as actual intelligence declines precipitously. I mean, pretty soon the artificial intelligence overlords will be machines that are capable of, filing things alphabetically and other amazing tasks of computational power.
It's nice to have some kind of intelligence waiting in the wings for us.
It should terrify you. It should terrify you. These are the people who I have seen again and again and again and again and again on TED Talks, assure me that we have nothing to worry about by building this final invention, the invention that will invent everything else, that we have nothing to worry about because they will build programming constraints onto the behavior of artificial intelligence.
But that's BS. Once it's artificially intelligent, that means it can program itself.
Once it's artificially intelligent, it means it's smarter than you are, and it means that any attempt you make to stop it is doomed to doomed to some kind of failure. It's just a matter of time, because that smarter generation of AI will build an even smarter generation of AI, and it will be incrementally faster than the previous generation because it was designed by people smarter than humans. And so what we're left with is a group of chimps that have determined that the best way to make sure that chimps don't get, put in zoos by humans is because, they've decided to strew a few banana peels on the floor, and that'll prevent any takeover by these pesky humans. And this should be terrifying to you. You'd like to think that the people who are making these decisions are at least to some degree people who have some experience with human conflict and with using weapons. But the naivete of these people exceeds all possible description. Frankly, it's simply unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable to me that they can be this aggressively stupid and not see it.
Are you saying that the inventors of this stuff didn't put a little switch on the back of the neck? Because that's where it always, like in the movie, that somebody just has to get to the little switch that's on the back of the neck.
Well, as it turns out, you had always been told that the solution is, well, look, ultimately, if the thing gets really intelligent, we'll just pull the power cord.
That's right.
But you don't know if that's going to do the job. You don't know if that intelligence has been able to migrate to some other system. You don't know if pulling the power cord is met simultaneously by the machine shutting off the electrical system to simulate the fact that the power. You don't know. It's like us trying. It's like chimps trying to predict. It's like a war of chimps versus seals. And I mean the human seals. I don't mean the other kind of seals. That would be more of an even fight. It simply astonishes me, and I get this horrible feeling that, I'm either going to be looking up as the Skynet bomb starts coming down, or I'm going to be herded into the underground sugar caves by these hunter killer, chrome plated death bots. And I'm going to be looking for people who worked for Google so that I could beat them to death before the robots can.
This is, the 20th anniversary of the movie The Matrix.
Is it today?
Oh,
I don't know if it's today, but it's this year.
I think it came out. In April of '99, if I remember correctly.
That's right. It was '99.
Yeah. So
it's a great movie.
It's this month or very soon.
So anyway, I think that'll be my primary one. And then the second one, there's a number of people are upset about. They're related stories. We're selling F-16s to Taiwan. I'll double check it. And that upsets the Chinese. We've recently made a decision to buy a number of F-15Xs. And then the question becomes, why the hell are we buying airframes that were first manufactured in the 1970s? I mean, isn't that an indication that the U.S. defense industry has become simply, fighting the last war, sitting on our laurels and so on? We're buying scores of jets that were designed in the 60s and early 70s, built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and we're building a lot more of them. And shouldn't that worry the living daylights out of us?
No.
But I have a friend who works in the software, former F-16 driver, and he says that the F-16s that are out there now they're just simply not the same airplane.
No.
And they can't be considered the same airplane. And the thing that is encouraging to me is that we seem to be leading the world. In fact, not only leading the world, we seem to be the only power in the world that has really transitioned to there's something called a revolution in military affairs that happens every century or so. It's not on a regular basis. Yeah, but a revolution in military affairs is where some technology comes in that utterly changes the game completely, and the invention of muskets, of gunpowder and bullets changed forever the values of armor and cavalry and all the rest of this stuff.
Combined arms was the big changer in World War II, etc.
So you're saying that the new F-16s are better?
No. Well, first of all, what I'm saying is the new F-16s are much, much, much better than the F-16s that first came online. But my bigger point is this. That's not the point. Steve is another military historian. He pointed out that World War II was the first time we really began to understand the idea of combined operations, where you would have the Navy bombarding a ground target, airplanes strafing beaches, Marines going ashore, Army logistics, all this other stuff. But we are now at the point where we seem to be the first power in the world that understands that all of these distinctions become meaningless. That we are going to war with a combined force, and that the assets of the country are deployed in such a way as to maximize everything. And basically, what he's saying is that you could have 100 F-16s. You could have them 50 miles behind 2 F-22s. The F-22s are incredibly capable, stealthy platforms, and the F-22s aren't shooting down jack. They're keeping all their missiles to themselves just in case they need them. They are essentially invisible. They're sending targeting information to the F-16s that are launching missiles that are going to take out these enemy targets way beyond the range of retaliation. So basically the F-15s and the F-16s become essentially flying
they're missile farms,
missile racks.
Yeah.
And that targeting information can come from a sergeant on a horse. It can come from a satellite. Submarines can then use cruise missiles to take out assets that have been targeted by a guy on a horse sent to an Air Force satellite beamed down to a Marine Corps transmitting facility, and it's one giant net. And it also led me to a realization of something that a guy who's got a great YouTube channel called Smarter Every Day talked about. And he was talking about he got a chance to talk to a major general and was talking about this exact kind of thing. And he said that the U.S. military is now thinking in terms of multi-dimensional strategy. And it used to be land, and then it was land and sea, and then it was land, sea, and air. Now it's land, sea, air, and space, plus it's and land, networks. Sea, air, space, and cyber. Yep, plus it's land, sea, air, spaces, and human factors. Cyber and human factors. That the humanity is actually a sixth level of combat. And this gives me enormous confidence and hope, because this is boy, actually, I don't want to make this a firewall.
Don't we have to say? Don't we have to at this point basically say, well, no offense to the Russians and the Chinese, but we need to take you out right now.
Yeah.
The Chinese cyber and Russian cyber is very good, and the idea that I'm going to make this week's firewall. It's something I can write about. It's something I know. I'm sorry. So forgive me.
No, that's all right.
Let me think about. Before we get to the next thing, as a scratch pad for.
Yeah. Let me give you a cool little bit of trivia about the F-16. When General Dynamics designed that thing back in the early 70s, my father-in-law, who flew them all over Europe for years, in fact, his squadron at Torrejon was the first in Europe to transition from F-4s to F-16s. General Dynamics designed it with the best air conditioner that anybody had ever put on a combat jet. And the reason wasn't to keep the pilot comfortable. That's right. They wanted room to grow for the electronics, and that has proven just prescient on the part of GD.
And while I'm not privy to any inside information, although God knows I wish I was, then I wouldn't have to do this freaking show. I could just learn all these cool secrets and just live on my mountaintop and command things from my dirigible. But it's been widely publicized that the F-35 has a vertical takeoff variant, which is the one that's able to go vertically for the Marine Corps.
Yeah, 35B.
Yes. Right, and it takes a lot of juice, and so basically that the jet engine in the back is using the shaft power of that jet to turn a fan, and that fan is lifting the center of the fuselage, the throttle, the thrust nozzles bend down, and a combination of the thrust from the jet plus the shaft horsepower of the fan is what lifts the F-35 up vertically. And I don't remember what the number is, but it's something along the lines of that thing is generating something like 135,000 shaft horsepower of power.
That's insane.
It's some insane number. And And what people are saying is when you are generating that much power, you can have an aircraft that generates enough electricity to run energy weapons in real time from the platform internally. In other words, you're now talking about a platform that generates enough energy for beam weapons. And beam weapons are awfully nice because they're essentially very easy to point. They destroy targets very, very quickly, and you can retarget things in a blink of an eye.
They travel at the speed of light. I don't know if you saw this on Instapunt yesterday, Bill, but I posted a thing that was a fairly lengthy interview with a bunch of different F-35 pilots, all three variants. And one of the Marine guys said he trained initially on Harriers with the vertical takeoff, and he said it was a lot of training and it was a lot of work, even after you were trained, to hold that plane in position when it was hovering. He said with the F-35B, the computers are so good that you get that thing in the hover position and it will just stay there until it runs out of fuel or you tell it to move.
Yeah, and you just give it a little side stick and it slides sideways at a perfect heel. Yeah. So anyway, I think the bigger issue is not so much the use of old airframes as it is the fact that we seem to not be fighting the last war. Although, again, I really think that should be a firewall. I don't know if I really want to. It seems a little like I'm cheating the members if I.
Well, how about instead we do a right angle on our favorite cookie recipes, and instead of.
Well, how about we do this? How about you guys go and.
Kill time while you're coming up with another topic?
Yeah, that's what I was getting.
Okay, you want me to go? Because I'm ready. I
only want you to go on one condition, Steve, and I think you know what that condition is.
I don't take your topic.
Thank you.
Would you like to go first?
No.
I don't think you have this column. Well, I've started a thing that typically I try to write a column or two on Mondays to get the week at Vodka Pundit started off nice and big. And a lot of times it turns out that one of those columns becomes one of my topics for Right Angle, and I'd like to do that again this week. And I would like to talk about the worst congressperson in Congress. Can you guess who it is?
Oh, my goodness. So many choices.
Maxine Waters?
So many choices.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and it's
Dios mío.
And it's not because of the stupid things she says, or how wrong she is, or her just flagrantly awful online personality, or any of the rest. It's how she treats her constituents. She's just a bad congressperson.
So she's not taking care of the constituent services element, which is basically a congressperson's main job is to raise money, and their number two job is to run a complaint and goodies window.
Exactly.
Yeah, she doesn't have an office, right? She's never in her office. She's never available. She can't be reached. She's on the celebrity tour, and
well, you don't even need to be there, though. All you need to do is staff it properly.
Yeah, and she's not
even
doing that.
Well, that requires some administrative skill. Yeah, and that's not likely to happen.
The New York Post did a great story talking to Democrats in her district, New York 20 or whatever it is, and they're all complaining. She doesn't show up at local meetings that Congress people usually go to. She doesn't return phone calls. Her voicemail box is full and not taking any new messages, so nobody's listening to these things clearly.
Yeah,
she's
there's a few financial irregularities would be my strong suspicion.
Does she replace the coffee filters when it's her turn?
No,
probably
she
not.
Doesn't. She doesn't put the seat back up. She doesn't. She doesn't do anything.
Women, man.
Socialists, you can't live with them. You're not legally allowed to do what you really want to do to them.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines from Cheers. I can't remember how the subject came up, but Norm says, "Women, can't live with them. Pass the beer nuts, Cliff."
Did I just come
and
up
here
with a
we
second
are,
topic?
all three happily married men. But there you go.
Was that your topic, Bill? What Steve just said? Was that?
No. That's my topic. Is hang on, I got to make a microphone adjustment here. There we go. No, I'm gonna talk about the worst congressperson in Congress, and it's stiff competition. They've got 435 of those SOPs up there on Capitol Hill. But yeah, we're going to allow viewers in New York to vent their frustrations via us to a wider audience.
I'll tell you what, there was, I usually often did not see eye to eye with a guy, but former Congressman Charlie Dent, who represented my district back in Pennsylvania, he was like the master of the political game. He was the best campaigner I've ever seen in my life. He knew everybody by name. He had a personal story for everybody. He asked them about their family. And then one time I went to Washington, D.C., and he insisted that I stop by his office and his people would give me a tour of the Capitol building. And indeed they did, with me and my wife and I think a couple of my children. And they were great. I mean, like, the people he hired were great. Everybody was great. And part of me was like, wow, this guy really knows how to run a congressional office. And the other part of me was like, wow, why are we wasting money on crap like this?
But you know what? I know we're a republic, but we are a republic with an elected House that serves to express the popular will of each one of those districts. And you don't get to keep doing that part of the job if you don't keep your constituents happy. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, well, she's a blessing. And she just continues to be.
I cannot believe that there's not at least one former congressman who runs a business called Constituent Services. You can outsource this to me. I used to be in Congress. I know how to take care of your constituents. Just turn that entire thing over to me. You write me a check once a month. I will staff your office. I will make sure that every request is responded to promptly. I will make sure that you're made aware only of those things that require your personal attention, and I will take care of everything else. Man.
Well, Scott, there's a business for you right there.
That's genius. That's right.
I've got another one.
Oh, good.
Well, that was good. We kept Steve doing this long enough.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I know. I do tend to go on.
We did.
I think I helped.
We shot Bill Whittle now about Beto, some of Beto O'Rourke's comments about immigration and stuff. But I see on Drudge that there are pictures of him. There's a painting of him as Jesus, literally as Jesus, a guy holding up a sign that says Beto is our Christ. And Beto, the only reason people are talking about Beto O'Rourke is because he has the same teeth as Bobby Kennedy. That's the only reason he's even there. And this adulation, this religious adoration of politicians, seems to me to be unique to the left and talks an awful lot about where their priorities are. And once again, it kind of reminds me of that story about the people that were the terminal progressives with terminal diseases that were trying to stay alive long enough to hear the results of the of the Mueller report.
Oh, that's got to be killing them.
Oh, yeah, we must have had old people just dropping dead 2 weeks ago, left and right.
But
so Bill, I thought that picture on Drudge I thought he was like dressed up like Socrates or Aristotle or something. Was that supposed to be Christ?
Well, he's got a halo.
Oh, I didn't see the halo. I did not see the halo.
Man.
He's doing that.
The Dems are going from black
which
Jesus
which as anybody
Jesus.
knows is the Renaissance symbol for 2 cappuccinos grande. Right.
He was actually just dressed up as the Roman Catholic Jesus.
Yes, that's right. Not the real Jesus.
I wonder
I don't ladies and gentlemen,
said that. It's the end of that membership drive. But I think that's I think it's another point needs to be explored. Is this, is that politics is their religion and it's their hobby and it's their occupation and it's their everything. It's sad.
Well, they're having trouble though because they have several messianic characters, including this Pete, Steve Line. What's the last name?
Buttface.
Cortez.
Thank you. It's that other guy apparently is just rocking the world.
Let's just call him Mayor
like
Pete.
Crazy.
That's what they call him in South
Mayor
Bend.
Pete.
So we'll just call him Mayor Pete.
Wasn't there? There was an independent a Drudge link on him too.
Yeah.
Mayor Pete. Yeah, he's 11.
Pistol Pete. He is apparently people on social media are all excited about him. And then we got O'Rourke. There's no real like Joe-mentum behind Biden. But so now you've got 2 messianic characters. Which one wins? The one that more people know about already, or this up and comer from nowhere? And I think the Democrats have proven they're willing to take some, amateur senator that nobody knew about. So,
yeah. Here's the deal:
right,
we've got all of these women
too.
running, and the Democrats seem to be solidifying either behind gay Jesus or faux Hispanic Jesus.
Faux Hispanic.
Is Mayor Pete gay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, okay then. This is great. I consider them both to be the Mueller report of presidential candidates, and I'm looking forward to facing them.
The Mueller report that's got to be a thing now.
So
that's the new nothing burger.
So that's Bill's topic, and that segues me right into my topic, which comes to us thanks to our buddy Nate Silver over at 538. Under the headline, "The end of the Mueller probe hasn't been a game changer for Trump." Apparently, there was no Trump polling bump in the wake of the Mueller report, and they have a good 8 different theories as to why this is so. And I'm noting right now as I read reason number 1 that they misspelled the name Mueller in the in the headline of reason number 1. But basically, I'll rattle off a couple of them here. The Mueller report really hasn't been released, and so voters are holding back. Trump's approval ratings have stayed in a narrow range, so this really doesn't change much. Voters don't necessarily see the Mueller report as exonerating Trump. Public's expectations of Mueller's findings are modest and consistent with what they've learned so far, so nobody really expected much from it. The Russia investigation didn't really matter to people, and it goes on in that vein.
Is there anywhere in this list, is there any mention of reason number 1, which is every single Republican in the country knew the whole thing was bullshit? Is that listed anywhere?
Well, I don't think they're just polling Republicans here, but reason
that should at least be listed as a theory.
The public doesn't trust the White House on Russia, and the White House's attempts to spin may have backfired, and that's it.
It's a terrible defeat for Trump. It's a massacre. It's a massacre of Trump and the entire Republican Party. All right, that Mueller report, boy, those clever bastards. Well, by having it reveal nothing was their secret master plan. You see,
I'm not sure this reason is in there, although they kind of dance around it. But when I saw the headline, I immediately thought, well, I don't think anybody really expected at this point that there was going to be anything in the Mueller report. And when it came out and there was nothing in it, nobody really was like, okay, it was already baked in. Our expectation was that it wasn't going to do anything. But they're mystified.
Sun sets on schedule, right? I mean, that's basically why that we didn't get a bump in the fact that the sun actually rose in the morning today. Wasn't inspired millions of people to take to the streets joyously celebrating the arrival of the sun god from the depths of Hades. It's like the sun pretty much rises every day. You don't get a medal for for showing up.
Well, other than former CIA Director John Brennan, did anybody see those results and go, "I'm glad that the president was not a criminal"?
Yeah, that's the thing. The only people who expected anything big after 2 years from this Mueller report are viewers of Rachel Maddow, and there aren't enough of them to swing a poll one way or the other.
By the way, when I was looking for photos of Brennan in the last firewall...
Oh, that was a classic slide.
Oh, thank you.
That was great.
Well, I got to tell you... I couldn't find a picture of Brennan that didn't look like he was like you're fired from we hired you to be the next Bond villain, but we had to let you go because you were too over the top, just too on the nose.
That's sad.
He makes Dick Cheney look like Mr. Rogers, this guy, and Mayor Pete.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, if you haven't seen that episode yet, check that out at BillWhittle.com. The one with Brennan in it. Bill did a classic rendering, and I saw that picture, Bill, that you did. And granted, it's in black and white, which makes it a little easier to do that kind of thing.
Oh, that one, the Photoshop.
Yes, yeah. And nevertheless, I looked at that and I thought, when did Brennan have time to pose for a picture like this?
Thank you. I was talking about the one in the firewall where he's, just in front of the CIA symbol. But it's the Keystone Cops, right? If only we had some way to know if this information were any good. Anybody here have any ideas about how to check information coming from Russia? Anybody? We need a staff. We need some kind of building. Hire some people. Get on this right away.
Get somebody to pretend to be somebody else and go somewhere else and then listen. Oh, right. So anyway, that should be, I think.
But I'm no intelligence professional.
A lot of fun. So we've got, by the way, we've had some cheers from the members for our string of firewall episodes that have come out for the last 3 weeks. Looking forward to the next one coming out. The members at BillWhittle.com are cranking out blog posts faster than we're cranking out videos, and we're doing like 10 episodes a week. So So they're doing a lot of work.
You get 20 Bill Whittle Nows, 20 right angles, and 4 firewalls a month for the measly low price of $9.95. But of course, you already know that.
What a bargain!
Or more if you wish.
Yeah, and everything's working smoothly. And if you think it's not, then just hit the contact link and send us an email, and we'll change your mind about that. No, actually, we'll make it work smoothly for you.
Did you say we'll make it worse?
Contact our customer service department, who will establish that you're indeed wrong, and
you will find yourself suddenly subscribed to every single, sexual enhancement product in the history of the internet. No, we wouldn't do that to nice people like you.
I think watching the programs that we produce at BillWhittle.com are probably the #1 sexual enhancement treatment in the country. What can make a man or woman more desirable than having a head full of this kind of information?
Most anything, really.
Being right.
Yeah,
that's right. And frankly, $9.95 a month, $19.95 a month, $49.95 a month, still cheaper than the little blue pill. So, on a monthly basis.
I feel intellectually erect after recording these segments.
There's always a line, and we always nudge it, and then Steve leaps across
Steve
with
across
Steve
the
goes,
chasm like a gazelle.
Steve is like he's like watching people doing like the standing broad jump, and then he says, right. "I got a pole and I got 200 yards. Hold my beer.
Hold my
beer." That was a Kim Jong-un report on the upcoming presidential polling. That's the word he was using there. It wasn't what you thought he said.
Parenthetically, I should say that in British schools, I'm not joking. We did have to do pole vault in physical education with a completely rigid, it was like a broom handle,
just like an iron stick.
I think it allowed you to clear like another 1.5 inches of what you might have been able to jump.
So there was no flex.
At the risk of impaling yourself and destroying your internal organs, it really was. It was like running into a truck.
In our pits for the high jump and the pole vault, we had actual like shredded fiberglass foam. So it was like these big chunks of like long pieces, rectangular pieces, just heaped up, just piles of this stuff with no covering on it or anything. And when you landed in that stuff, you walked away and you've got like glass particles all over your body. Yeah.
Well, they saved money by the asbestos that they pulled out of the building's air conditioning and heating systems.
The track with that, yeah.
No reason to spend extra money for a mat.
And if you complained about it, they would remind you that when they were at the same school, it was just a sand pit. And so you should be grateful.
Progress.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we know you're grateful for this sand pit that we call BillWhittle.com. And we are grateful to you for providing the sand that goes into our pits.
Oh my God, this is getting out of control. Let's just edit this whole thing down.
Yeah, Mark, our editor can trim this down. It'll
take care of that in post. Yeah.
It's always better once he gets done with it than it is when we made it. We appreciate the members at BillWhittle.com who make the show possible. Let us know how, if you have ideas for shows, if you have an idea for a blog post. And by the way, if you write to me, people have been doing this. They write using the contact form, and I get this email with this like detailed information about something, to which I always respond, hey, this would make a great blog post at the new member blog at BillWhittle.com. And so I invite them to do that, and some of them actually have, and it does make a great blog post. So get in there, mix it up, have fun with it. Let us know if you have any difficulties, or if you just want to say thanks because it's so beautiful it made you cry. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making this possible.